First thing I want to be aware of is, I got that 16-foot long piece that I have to have for another long wall. So make sure you keep track of your materials, because the last thing you want to do is cut it out of the wrong length. If I cut it out of the 16-foot long piece, I'd still have enough to do my job, but then I'd have to put a seam in a long wall. And I hate putting seams in long walls, because then you got to line up a joint, and on a joint I don't just butt them up. I put it at a 45-degree cut, so one piece has a 45, the other piece has a 45. You line it up and all that. But last thing you want is if you got a long wall. Kind of getting off the subject, but let me just finish my train of thinking here. If you got a long wall and you don't have a long piece of base for it, look and see if you've got any bulges in that wall, because the last thing you want is to have a joint close to a bulge in your wall, because then that's going to make your joint that much more noticeable. It's not going to be able to kind of float over it if you didn't have a joint there. So look for that before you install your long pieces of base, and then you can install it accordingly. Maybe you're going to start from the left end of the wall, but the bow is in such the right place to where you need to install the long piece of base on the right end of the wall first. You know what I mean? Just kind of think about that a little bit, because that's happened to me a few times, and then the joints look really bad. So check your walls out. I've got a little goober on this, and I'm going to cut that off. And that'll be fine. That'll finish off that end. And I'm going to cut that 45 off first before I measure my trim here. Okay, so I still got it at a 45-degree angle. I still have this set right where I need it. I'll be able to cut that off. Make sure you keep your fingers out of the way. I want to cut that much. I'm saving my material as best I can, because I got just enough to finish off this job. So I don't want to overdo it on my first cut here. I'm trying to cut this in such a way to where I can use my saw for all of my cuts. I got my 45 here, the blade is set this way. My next cut, if I just set this up at 22.5, I could cut my left-hand side, but I don't know exactly where the outside corner is going to go at 22.5. I mean, I guess I could figure it out if I really, truly wanted to. I could measure from this end, or I could take my the base that's there, measure from this point here, and go on over. In fact, maybe I'll do that so I can show you how to do that. Okay? I think I'll do that. Let's use our saw to the best of our ability. You could cut it the other way that I was going to show you. There's different ways to do it, but because the saw is there, let's just use it, shall we? Okay? So I know the bottom of this is tight. It's just the top that's kind of pushed over. And if I cut that square, just the natural cut is going to push that up just a little bit, okay? The bottom is exactly where it needs to be. So I can measure right from that edge, right? So that's measuring from the inside corner as opposed to the outside corner of our new piece. Does that make sense? Okay, then we're going to come over. And I know exactly where I want it on this bullnose trim. I've got a mark here. I'm trying to mimic what I've already done. From there, this is going to come out like that. And that's going to come out at a 22.5 degrees. Okay, because the next piece is going to be at a 22.5 to return it back over into the door jamb. See right there? This is going to come out. And I can't cut this out of 45. If I were to cut this out of 45 and the next piece out of 45, I'd have an outside corner right here. And I don't want an outside corner. I want to go from this point over that way at a 45-degree angle. The only way to do that is when you make two cuts. This piece here has to be cut at 22 and a half. That's half of a 45-degree corner. Half of 45 is 22 and a half. Then when I cut this little piece, that's going to be a 22 and a half degree and a 45-degree corner there. Does that make sense? Okay, so I put a mark here about a 1/4 inch away from the bull nose wrap around. I can kind of see that. And I think that's going to be good. So that's where I want to measure to. Okay, so if I look at that again, now I'm trying to do this so that I can use my saw without having to cut on the top of my base or anything like that. I measure from there to that pencil line. I got 44 and a half. Maybe a short half, 44 and a half short, which is 44 and 7/16. I don't usually call it out 44 and 7/16. I'll say 44 and a half short. You know, that just sounds better, or I can remember it easier if I call it out to somebody. Yeah, cut me a piece 44 and a half short. They know exactly what that means. Just sounds better than 44 and 7/16 or 13/16 or whatever, you know. So that's what I'm going to cut that at. 44 and a half short. Now let's see how that coincides with the piece we got outside.